He is the most powerful janitor at MIT, and with his mopping skills, he effortlessly solved highly challenging mathematical problems. When the professor discovered this, he immediately promoted him to a researcher. However, in reality, when he was with the professor seemed more like a student facing complex problems. After some time, Marv reached a breakthrough, and suddenly everything became clear. The professor, acting like a caring father, patted Marv's back, seeing the progress he made, knowing that conquering the Nobel Prize in mathematics was within reach. That night, Marv quietly immersed himself in psychology books, and in no time, he memorized the entire content. The next day, armed with just a few sentences, Marv retaliated fiercely, hitting the professor's sore spots, chasing the professor away, as geniuses are often intolerant of setbacks. Marv's words were a refusal to let others enter his inner world. After seeing 5 different psychologists in a row, the professor had no choice but to turn to his old classmate for help. This classmate was a true master in psychology, an elderly man who had given up counseling after losing his beloved wife. Returning to his hometown, he initially didn't want to come out of retirement, but when he heard about Marv's background, he decided to make an exception and give it a try. Their first meeting was filled with tension. Since Marv entered the room, he began collecting information to break down old Ziowo's psychological defenses. To his surprise, he could tell about old Ziowo's pain of losing his wife just from a painting. Marv's words completely angered old Xiao, who rushed forward and grabbed Marv by the collar, saying that this was about his wife, and he would end Marv if he mentioned it again. After Marv left, old Xiao was consumed by sadness and couldn't calm down for a long time. Despite the unpleasant meeting, he decided to continue their sessions. Being closed off for so long, he wanted to face his inner pain through this opportunity. For their second meeting, they decided to meet in the park. Old Xiao didn't lecture Marv from a position of authority but instead talked to him as a friend. First, he candidly admitted that Marv's words had deeply hurt him yesterday. Then he began speaking in a rather cryptic manner. "Who does the kid? Do you have a favorite story of what you're talking about? Why do I ask you? Probably so Shakespeare. Once more into the beach, dear friend. Go to that store to play. You never heard your best friend, hand in your lap, watching jazz's last, but looking at you. I ask you about love. Probably called me on it. Do you have a look at a woman and then totally vulnerable? And someone that could level you with her eyes. Through anything. So Cancer. And you would know about sleep and sit in a hospital room for 2 months holding her hand because the doctors could see in your eyes that the terms visiting hours don't. Upside to you. He turned out of your last. I just heard you say our boys. No one could possibly understand the depths of you. That because you know what, I can't learn anything from you. I can't read in some fucking book. Unless you want to talk about you. Who you are. Marv listened in silence, as his talent had made him somewhat arrogant, but deep down, he was still like an immature child. He used his genius and violence to confront the world, but never dared to face his own inner self. That night, Marv took the initiative to find old Xiao, who remained silent, waiting for Marv to speak first. Only if Marv was willing to open up, would old Xiao be able to restrain himself. So, they stared at each other, without saying a word, for the whole night. The next day, just like usual, Marv came to find old Xiao. This time, he couldn't contain himself and admitted that he had recently met a girl whom he really liked. However, he was afraid that getting to know her better would ruin the perfect feeling he had. Old Xiao told him that he should learn to accept his imperfections first, and then use a perfect perspective to embrace others' imperfections. He then shared his own experience, saying that he would get nervous and fart whenever he felt anxious, often waking himself up at night. Marv burst into laughter after hearing this. It was the first time